Pittsburgh, organizations that help out families and individuals that are in crisis. And we're talking about money at first. How do you put together the budget, especially in these days when government money and even private money seems to be dwindling? John, you mentioned being creative. Give us some sense of how you're creative. When you guys sit down and try to figure out how to make the budget, where do you go? What news sources do you try to find?
Well, we go to creating creative opportunities with people. For example, we have an employment institute that works with at-risk young people, but also families, to move them to self-sufficiency. The entire thing is funded by private dollars. There's no government money in it. We built partnerships with corporations. There are, in Western Pennsylvania, 40,000 chronically unfilled jobs, good-paying jobs. 20,000 don't require college. And so we help people get certifications, and businesses will actually come in and teach people to get these certifications and then hire them as employees instead of recruiting out of state. So that's one example of being creative without government funding.
So you coordinate the program. It's the private companies that actually do the service and
right.
Get it
We
done,
recruit. Right? We recruit them to come in and do it, and then we support it as at-risk kids and families are going through the program. We have counselors and educators and tutors that are doing kind of work on the side to help people succeed in the program so that they can be able to meet the educational requirements of getting the certification, and so they stay the course throughout the program to succeed.
Yeah. How about the Salvation Army? How creative do you have to get when you're putting your budget together?
Very creative. But what we've been trying to do, as again I said earlier, we're trying to build the donor base. We're actually spending more money to make more money. We're trying to reach out to the younger generation, because the older generation that recognize the Salvation Army Red Kettle coming from the war, that kind of thing, and the donuts, folks are slowly leaving us. So we're really trying to reach out to the younger generation. And one of the things we're doing that's been very successful the last 3 years is something we call the Most Amazing Race. It's sort of geared after the Amazing Race on television, and it's been a big fundraiser for us. But what it's doing is bringing in the new demographics of the young people, and it's been a great fundraiser for us. So we have creative fundraisers, and they're thinking outside the box and trying to reach the new generation, and that's the main way. And of course, we're reaching out to new companies, other companies that we can try and get the word out about exactly what the Salvation Army is all about.
Yeah. And how about the food bank?
And I think, like Major, a lot of what we do is trying to, like, we've instituted social media, and so Twittering and Facebooking, and trying to identify new populations of people. I think we're gearing up more our media campaign awareness, public awareness, and of course advocacy is a big tool that we use to try to make sure that people are aware of what the needs are, the opportunities with the state food, the budgets that happened, really trying to get people engaged in advocacy. Again, new donors, just trying to identify new donors, and then looking internally, streamlining, coming up with what are the things that the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank does best. Mm-hmm. And so as we begin to plan our 3-year strategies, looking at, what are we going to do well, and then that being our base.
Yeah. In advertising and marketing, they talk about branding. And that's part of what you were talking about, Cynthia, the outreach and getting media support and getting the word out. So branding is really important. And the Salvation Army has done a good job of that over the years, I suspect. John, let me ask you about Auberle. Auberle, I suspect, is less well known, although you've been around for a lot of years. What about branding and getting your name out in the public? Is that an important thing for you, or is it kind of a secondary?
Yes, it is. Historically, it hasn't been. We probably haven't focused as much on that in our 60 years, but in the past couple of years, we focused a lot of attention on that. We have all the various social media outreaches. We have a lot of media coverage. We try and target most of our work toward volunteer groups, faith-based groups, corporate community, and people who come in as volunteers to make a difference. And we've built our donor base and our volunteer base. We have over 800 active volunteers every year who are making an impact in the organization. So our brand is moving and advancing, but you know, as Mark said, it takes money to invest in that, and you always have to have that trade-off about where you put your resources.
Yeah. Let me ask you about staffing. You know, obviously you need staff to get things done. You need money to pay the staff, especially if you have skilled staff. You have to have enough money to keep them so they're not running off somewhere else so they can get enough money to feed the family. How difficult is that, to raise the kind of salaries that you need to get good qualified staff?
It's difficult. I mean, it's a challenge. It all rolls into what we need to be able to operate. And so we have a staff of a little over 100 at the food bank.
Really?
But we serve 11 counties.
Yeah, but still, that's a lot.
A number of programs, and a significant number of our staff are operational staff who help us pick up donations and deliver food to agencies and
lift
keep
heavy
our
things.
building. Yeah, so it's challenging. It's challenging to stay competitive with other organizations in the community that would potentially take good people away.
Yeah. Do you have a big turnover, John, at your organization?
Well, we have turnover in the first 30 to 90 days. Beyond that, we usually do pretty well. We don't lose many people. We have 220 staff. We don't lose many people within the nonprofit sector, but it is very difficult to be competitive with for-profit opportunities, especially as people move into management and people start to do well and become very successful. Then for-profit entities are very attracted to them, and as passionate as people are, there comes a time when family responsibilities begin to play on that, and it makes it hard to keep your best people.
We want to talk a little bit more about that, but we have to take a break now. As we do, I want to remind you, we're talking about nonprofits and the great help that they provide to families and individuals when things are really, really tough and you need somebody to help. We'll be back in a moment. Stand by.